Green Lantern, a green spaceship flies directly out the sun and starts barreling towards planet Earth. While in Highway, New Mexico, two men are walking outside the Nellis base as they're joking about UFOs before they're thrown back by a huge explosion as a big ass green spaceship lands directly in front of them. Now, the two brave men decide to take a closer look, and upon further inspection, they find the Green Lantern, Kyle Rayner. Now, Kyle's ring seems to be burned into his finger as Kyle is in a state of shock, and he mutters, "It has a name," before he passes out. Meanwhile, in North Carolina, at the Ferris airfield, Carol Ferris is strolling through the property as she's on the phone with her husband, as the property is currently up for sale. But Carol is stunned as she approaches a jet that used to belong to none other than Hal Jordan. But elsewhere in the Bronx, New York City, Jon Stewart is flying high as he's taxiing Guy Gardner to a baseball game, seeing as Guy is no longer a Green Lantern user. As Guy and John talk, Guy berates Jon Stewart for being a good little foot soldier for the Justice League. He says you let Batman tell you what to do without ever challenging him. Now, John tells him that Batman is hardly calling the shots, but Guy tells him that's what Batman wants him to think. John puts a seal on Guy Gardner's mouth, and Guy transforms into a juggernaut, showing off his new Voldarian powers. As John and Guy take a seat, they're awaiting Hal Jordan, but Guy says technically Hal Jordan is dead. But to his surprise, dead or not, Hal Jordan actually does show up for the baseball game. But as Hal takes a seat, something weird happens as several people come up and start confessing their sins to him, with even Guy Gardner confessing that he cheated on his taxes. Hal stands up ready to leave as he knows the spirit of vengeance won't give him a break anymore. But elsewhere in Star City, at the home of Green Arrow, Speedy and Green Arrow are getting ready to mobilize when there's a huge explosion that blows them both back. Black Hand has arrived, and he has a tracking device that's leading him to Green Arrow's basement. Black Hand would make his way into Arrow's basement where he would find a tiny little box, and inside that box, he finds a Green Lantern ring. Now, before Black Hand can get out of there, he's shot in the hand by Green Arrow and pinned to the wall. Now, before Green Arrow can deal with him, Hal Jordan appears in his basement, and Hal Jordan begins to glow with power. Hal turns into the Spectre, the spirit of vengeance, and he tells Black Hand that he let the jealousy of his family's success rot his soul. He goes on to tell him he's stolen that which is not his, and the truth is, his heart is black as coal. The Spectre raises his hand as he passes judgment, and Black Hand's right hand is disintegrated and turned into dust. Now, Green Arrow tells Spectre to stop, but Hal Jordan comes to and tells Ollie that it's getting harder for him to focus because something is very wrong. He says none of this should be happening, and this isn't who he is. The Spectre disappears, leaving Ollie, Speedy, and a one-handed villain in the form of Black Hand. Green Arrow retrieves the ring, and he recalls Hal Jordan saying, "Only break the glass if it's an emergency," and he believes that this counts as an emergency. But elsewhere in New York City, as Guy Gardner and Jon Stewart share a drink, Guy recounts when Hal was turned into Parallax and went on trying to rewrite history. But as he tells John that now his soul is trapped inside the Spectre and he's become the spirit of vengeance, something starts happening as Guy's skin is on fire and he seemingly starts to mutate. Guy Gardner's powers spiral out of control, with him even manifesting a cannon in his arm and blowing Jon Stewart through the building. But elsewhere, as a plane flies over North Carolina in a previously destroyed area, as the smoke clears, they notice that everything has been rebuilt, as well as one very peculiar building. But meanwhile, in Louisiana, in Bellevue Prison, one of the prison guards is on a stretcher being hauled out as his mind has been destroyed by Hector Hammond. Now, Hector Hammond sits in his cell thinking about Kyle Rayner as he knows Kyle has brought something back with him. Meanwhile, at the JLA Watchtower, Guy Gardner sits on a examination table as Martian Manhunter and Dr. Midnight try to figure out what's wrong with him, seeing as his organs are spilling out of his body. But elsewhere, as Wonder Woman is helping the JLA investigate a devastated area, they find something suspicious as they find a perfectly minted statue of Hal Jordan. This causes Alan Scott to worry as he thinks Hal will be unfairly blamed for this, seeing as all the evidence leads back to Hal Jordan. But elsewhere, as the Flash and Aquaman investigate an apartment on the coast, something is very strange because, as it turns out, this apartment belongs to none other than Hal Jordan. Now, this is more than enough evidence to Batman that Hal Jordan's previous reform was part of some bigger plot in order to gain more power. He tells John Hal always had an ego. He never worried when things came crashing down. He never prepared. He just flew in with the consequences. Now, John says that's enough as he crashes out and accuses Batman of having some kind of vendetta against Hal Jordan as he flashes the light of his Green Lantern ring. But as Green Arrow comes in and explains how Hal Jordan manifested himself in his basement, turned into the Spectre, and disintegrated a man's hand, it only serves to confirm Batman's suspicions. But elsewhere back at the Ferris Air Base, rain starts to fall and it wakes up Carol, as apparently she's fallen asleep while looking at this plane that previously belonged to Hal Jordan. But as Carol gets ready to leave, she's greeted by a man that appears in the rain, and that man just so happens to be none other than Hal Jordan. To be continued.